But let's come back here and close our conversation. Ms. Appiah, will this be part of the, I don't know how you term this, I'm sure you've been following this story, this breaking news story of the students of hygiene picketing at the ministry demanding for their allowances. But before you even come in, let's speak to Mr. Anthony Boateng, who's Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service. Mr. Boateng, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. Hello, sir. Good morning, Mr. Boateng. Okay. All right. Let me come to you, Ms. Appiah. I was just asking if this ropes into somehow the conversation that we're having within discipline. This does not count, does it?
Oh, it doesn't. We all know that when people have things to express about, one of the ways that they can do it is what they are doing. So once you've made a promise to them, it is also up to you to fulfill those promises and all that. But I'm worried about the language in terms of they are not going to vote, they are not going to do this, mentioning the president name here and there. That shows a certain line of how we communicate policies to people. If it's a failure on the part of the ministry to do that, I don't think that we should link everything to the political system to feel that if we don't do it, as if you are selling your right to vote to a particular person, for that matter, if the person do not live up to expectation, this is what you want to do. And that is what exactly happened in this case with our student who vandalized some of the properties and all that. If you listen to most of the videos, it comes back to the same thing. Some were even addressing the president. Some are saying that this and that, you promise us that we are not going to vote and all that. And that should be a worrying situation for this country, where we link everything to our political system. And anything else that we do, we think that once we made mention of a political party or a political system, everything must be done. And it's a worrying to this country to the extent that it's permeating our senior high and junior high schools. It's a very dangerous precedent that we are setting. And I feel that as policymakers, we have to rise to the occasion to correct some of these anomalies so that a political system do not overtake some of the things that we do. That is why I have condemned the act where we allow political parties to go into our schools to campaign and all that. It's a wrong move, and we should as a matter of policy, delink them from institutions that have been mandated by law to train our students. If there is anything at all that we need them to know, it must be on patriotism and it must be on nationalism. That is our concern.
Okay.
And if they are outside world and we want them to know what they're supposed to know about political system, then we take advantage of it. But it's a very worrying situation, Mama V.
Yeah, let's bring into the conversation the Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service, Mr. Anthony Boateng. Good morning to you. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. We've had a beautiful conversation in the studio not too long ago. But here we are today talking about indiscipline because of the videos that we've seen, with students not happy either about supervision or not happy, disappointed because they seem to have had some beliefs in the past questions that they had and were disappointed that the questions they were hoping to see they didn't see in the examination hall. But what we are talking about is their reaction, what we've seen them do on video. And I wonder what you make of it as a Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service.
Right. Thank you and good morning to your listeners as well. Yes, it's a very disturbing, worrying, and very, very, very unfortunate development. We take a very serious view of what's going on, and we intend to deal with the matter. You see, let me start by saying that the Ghana Education Service and therefore the schools have their own, the regulations that deal with discipline. Those issues have not been compromised in any way, despite the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And therefore, any student or anybody who breach any of these rules or regulations will be dealt with according to the rules and regulations of the service. Now, with respect to the videos and the issues that are being discussed, I do not think for one moment that anybody should think that supplying past questions and chief examiner's report to students mean that the students were expecting those questions to appear on their final examinations. It would be a very ridiculous expectation. Like, because we're giving past questions to guide in our studies, we're expecting those past questions to appear in our question paper, and therefore, when we went and those questions did not come, then somebody has disappointed us.
But
who has disappointed who?
But Mr. Boateng, we had a traditional way of doing this, where teachers would use it, or you would find it in the library. But this was a deliberate attempt to give each student a printed copy of the past questions. What was the communication that went along with it?
Madam, you will know, and I know, that when we were in school, those of us who could not afford even had to go to friends looking for it. And so the idea was that let's make it available to everybody, including those who can afford and those who cannot afford. In the past, when we were going to school and we were looking for question papers, we were not going to expect those question papers to appear at the final exam. They were to serve as guide and to help in our preparations. That is why we even went ahead and added the chief examiner's reports, so that they will know what the expectations are as part of their preparations. Now, some of the issues being raised by the students is that their heads were too strict. That, to me, is an issue that we need to interrogate. The examinations are written under rules and regulations, and we expect supervisors and invigilators to go strictly by those rules and regulations. If there is anybody who has gone beyond those rules and regulations, we want to investigate. But if there is any other student who thinks that because of free SHS, they will be allowed to cheat and do what they wanted to do in the examination hall, it's unfortunate, and they will definitely be disappointed. What we find as fundamental is that, if you remember, some questions had appeared on social media. We even issued a statement and warned students to stay away because they were fake. Many of them appear to have depended on those questions on the social media and got themselves disappointed. So that many of them, if you listen to those students from Sandema, I've seen the videos, they will tell you that they depended on the questions on social media and they were disappointed. If those issues are the issues, we can interrogate them. But we even issued a statement and warned that these are fake questions and they should not rely on them, and that they should concentrate on their preparations. So those ones are issues that the public must appreciate and understand. When it comes to the school examinations, I am not sure anybody, including the students themselves, were expecting the authorities of the schools were going to allow them to do whatever they like in the examination hall. It will not happen. When you do that, the implications for the students themselves, for the society as a whole, is grave. And we, as responsible managers of the system, will not allow that.
So what is likely to happen to these students? Because we've seen some of them in video, so you can identify them. There's also another report that our colleague also filed for us where the students touched the lightning system. So for the entire school, it was a total blackout, all in protests of the supervision. They said, for instance, that the social distancing was too much. The spaces were too wide. What will happen to these students?
If they claim that social distancing was too wide, it means they wanted to be closer so that they could cheat. Is that the implication? Now, we have seen the videos. We have even identified some of the students. The disciplinary processes have been initiated. We are monitoring the situation. The schools are dealing with the situation. We are waiting for the reports. When the reports come in, all the appropriate sanctions will be applied. If it means even withdrawing any student from school, we will go ahead and do that. If it means deboarding some of them, we will. We will take all the appropriate measures to ensure that there's total discipline and order in the schools. You see, we must appreciate the fact that to every right, there is a corresponding duty. You have the right to be in school, you have the right to do work, but you must also know that you have a responsibility towards the people of this country. And the sacrifices this country is making towards those children should even let them be more responsible. And we will not compromise for one moment any act of indiscipline. For example, let me give you a typical example. If you look at the video from Chidbo Akodia, there is this student girl who stands out there and urges students, destroy everything, destroy school property. We would deal with the situation. That one I can assure you. We will take appropriate disciplinary action against every single individual who is found to have misconducted him or herself. There are some few instances of some teachers who are also being. We will investigate all those matters and take appropriate disciplinary action against each and everyone who is involved.
Well, thank you for your time this morning, Mr. Anthony Boateng. He's a Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service. Let's just wrap up with our thoughts on this conversation with the perspective that has come through from the Ghana Education Service. Mr. Musah, I will start with you and end with you, and then I'll go to Mr. Appiah.
Yeah, thank you very much. All the people involved in the conduct of the exams, I think that those asking for security, the WASSCE and the Ghana Education should ensure that they are giving security, because once upon a time, there was a case where a particular person lost his life as a result of doing the work of WASSCE during examination such like this. So we are asking that security should be provided for all the people who need it at this particular time. The other aspect of all the things that have happened, I want to believe that all will be investigated, and when the facts come out, the appropriate sanctions, certainly. But in doing so, we must ensure that we are fair to everybody. We give everybody fair hearing before we arrive at any conclusion and the lessons that ought. Okay, but as an association, you don't have any report from your members, do you? Oh, we get a report from the teachers and all that have happened in the school. We are waiting. They are trickling in. That's what really happened. And I think it's also premature to make any definite statement, because like I was saying, for some of them, some claim that monies were collected from the students. These are all allegations, and according to them also, that there was a promise that the questions that they were given, they should expect something from it. So you're also waiting for the investigation? Yeah, these are things that must be established beyond reasonable doubt, that there were facts and things that happened, and then we can take it out from there. Okay, great. Yeah. Your last thoughts on this, Mr. Appiah?
Well, Musah mentioned the issue of fair hearing, and I think that should be core in this investigation, and then the approach that Ghana Education Service want to use in providing some kind of discipline to the student. But I want to say that Ghana Education Service, if you look at the work that they've done so far, most of the punishment that they've issued to students are purely administrative. And the school environment is not only for Ghana Education Service, but it's also for the student. So I would suggest to them that whatever punishment that they will give to the children should not deny them their right to have access to education. There's nothing in the law that suggests that when children go on a rampage like this, they have surrendered their right to education. There's nothing of a sort. Yeah. Therefore, any punishment that we want to provide, if it's a criminal act, if it's a tortious act, it must be treated as such so that we don't deny children their right. And I would also add that if you are doing the investigation, we'd have to look at it holistically from the student point of view, from the management point of view, and also the teachers who are also handling the student. Because if students are saying that they are being strict on them, basically, from my experience so far, it shows that they are treating them as a police officers, how a police officer will handle people and all that. So there should be a proper investigation into it before they arrived at any kind of conclusion that they want to, and then the kind of punishment or action that they are going to take, so that the interest of the student would also be served, because that is the ultimate thing. All right, great. Mr. Appiah, thank you very much for your time. Your book is still, because I got this, was it last year? Is it still out there? Yes, it's still out there. It's still out there, and
Okay.
people are showing interest in it.
Okay, great. I think it's a good time. If you don't have it, please grab one. A Child is a Subject of Law, authored by Bright Kwekwe-Appiah. I thank you very much for your time. And also in studio, Mr. Thomas Musah, General Secretary of the National Association of Teachers. Thank you very much. We'll wait for the reports, what you also get from your members, so we can digest the issues further. Well, coming up next, we go to Parliament, where really they say the people who are doing the real work in Parliament, they're just very few. And the new MPs, they are abysmal. That's not coming from me as the minority leader. We've got a conversation. We're engaging the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman. And then we'll go to Odikro as well. After all that they've been doing, well, it is true after all. We're back after this.